Okay, so now is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's taxes. Yay. On a Friday. At least it's not taxes on a Monday. Anyway, so unless you're watching this on a Monday, in which case, sorry. So this is the Form 1040. This is the U.S. tax return for individuals. A lot of times if you're a high school student or a college student, usually there's a 1040 EZ that's a lot simpler that you could use. A lot of people these days don't necessarily fill out paper forms, so I opened this one. It's a PDF so that we could look at it and go through all the things. I really recommend using a service or using a software like TurboTax or H&R Black, stuff like that. A lot of times you can get the free editions. Those are really helpful, and they kind of ask you don't have to really do much. They just walk you through step by step, and they go, okay, well, what's in box 1 of your W-2? And you go to your W-2 and blah, blah. And it'll ask you questions. Do you have any children? Yes or no. Did you buy a house in 2020? Yes or no. And so it's a whole lot easier. It just kind of walks you through everything. But if you're going to do it by paper, you can do that. You can generally get copies of these at the post office when it's time. It looks like you could probably print this out too. This is pdffiller.com. I don't know. I found it on Google. But anyway, okay, so let's walk through this. So we have right here, I'm going to put my little picture over here so we can see this better. So the first thing you would do is you go, okay, well, are you single? You married filing separately, head of household. So head of household means let's say you're living with somebody, you're not married, but you're supporting them, you're paying over 50% of the bills, you might qualify. Or if you have kids that are not necessarily, they don't count as your dependents, maybe you adopted them or something, or maybe they're like foster kids, not legally adopted, I think. Anyway, there's a whole list of things that you can look through in the instructions that says whether or not you qualify as head of household. Usually you're going to file one of these 3. So single, married, or married filing separately. Okay, this is just straight up information, your name, last name, social security, all that. Presidential election campaign fund. So you can elect to, or you can decide to donate $3 to the presidential election fund. It doesn't affect your taxes or your refund. That's totally up to you. I don't really like either choice for president this time, so I didn't really want to support their campaigns. Anyway, okay, so at any time during 2020, did you receive, sell, send, exchange, or otherwise acquire financial interest in any virtual currency? So if you have Bitcoin, you would put yes. So this is new. This changed. Okay, deductions. Can somebody else claim you as a dependent? Probably right now, since you're in high school, that would be a yes. They can claim you as a dependent. And then it asks how old you were, are you blind, blah, blah, blah. Dependents, do you have any kids? You would put those here. There are all kind of instructions on whether or not they qualify for child tax credit, whatever. Probably, most likely, most of you are going to skip that one. Okay, next we come to the actual tax part. So notice here it says wages, salaries, and tips attached forms W-2. In this case, usually those have already been sent. If you're e-filing, it'll tell you what to do with that. But anyway, this is box 1 off of our W-2. We saw that a minute ago. You just put that right there. So for Jane Doe, the example that we were looking at, which I should have kept up. But anyway, hers was $48,500, so I would put $48,500. Tax-exempt interest, qualified dividends. A lot of these things you're not going to have. Social Security benefits, maybe, maybe not. Pensions, annuities, these are like yearly payments, like from insurance or some kind of a retirement fund or whatever. Most of those you're not going to have. You would just leave them blank. If you have any questions whether or not you would have any of those things, you would look at the instructions. We'll look at those in a minute. So if you skip down here, so this is charitable contributions. So you would put those there. Then you get to the parts where it says to do something. So see where there's an arrow? That's where you're supposed to do stuff, not just put numbers. So line 9, it says add lines 1, 2B, 3B, blah, blah, blah. This is your total income. So she would add that plus whatever other stuff that she got. If she got she earned money somewhere else, she would put that there. You would add it up. That's her income. And then total adjustments. So you would add your little charitable contributions. You would put that here. Then you subtract these two, and that's your adjusted gross income. So that will go here. And then after that, so standard deduction or itemized deductions. Right now, like fresh out of high school, fresh out of college, and for a lot of people just in regular jobs, the standard deduction would be better. Like for me, I don't have my own company. I'm a teacher, so I don't have a lot of expenses that I could count as a tax deduction. Like, so if you have a business and you have all kind of business expenses, like you had to buy a printer and you had to buy supplies and you had to buy whatever, then you can deduct those things. But for me, I don't have those. So for me, normally the standard deduction works best. So this tells you what that is. So the standard deduction, if you're single or if you're married filing separately, your standard deduction is 12,400. So you would put 12,400. If you are married filing jointly, so you're filing together, it says you have 24,800. So that's what you would put there. If you're the head of household, this is how much you get. So you would do that. Anyway, then qualified business income deduction. These are special forms that you would get. If you didn't get these forms, chances are that doesn't apply to you. So then you add lines 12 and 13 and then put that here. And then taxable income. So you're going to take 14 and you're going to subtract it from line 11. If it's 0 or less, you just put 0. So if you made less than your standard deduction, then you put 0. You don't owe anything. Like, yeah. Okay. You may owe something which you didn't earn. That. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Tax. This is where we need the instructions. So, okay, child tax credit, all these other. See, now, second page gets a little tricky. So, first page was pretty straightforward. Second page, you're just looking at it going, well, how should I know? I don't know. So, okay. So, what you would do, and see, it doesn't even like, yeah. Normally, there's one where it's like the amount of taxes that you owe. And then let's see, where is it? So, it's all, yeah. Forms W-2. Okay. What you would need to do here is you need to go to the instructions. If you get this form at a post office, they have the instruction books right there. If you don't, and you're not using TurboTax will do all this for you. But you would go here. This is the irs.gov/instructions. This is a list of all the instructions for all the forms, and we would want to go down to 1040 because that's the form we're using. So 1040, and notice there are several of them. We just want 1040 straight up. Let's see. This is, here we go, 1040 for 2020. So I can open it here or I can open a PDF. I'm just going to go ahead and open a PDF. Eventually. Yay. Okay. I guess I already had it up from yesterday. Notice that's really long. When it was opening, look, 112 pages. This is a really thick book. But what this has is this has all the instructions for filling out the forms, and it also has the tax tables. So like right now we're on the part where we need to know the taxes that we should be paying. So what we would do is we're going to we'll go down through. So notice it has all these instructions. So it has like, do you have to file? You go through. What if you can't file on time? It tells you about that. It talks about like, so for children and other dependents, who qualifies for your dependent, blah, blah, blah. So we have all that. This goes through pretty much every line of the 1040 form. So if you have questions and you're not using TurboTax or H&R Block, you could just click on one of these. You'll open this little instruction book and you can go through here. So, okay, we're still on, does your child apply, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip down to page 65, and there's no reason you should know that, but that starts at our tax tables. So let's say you took out your little adjustments, like you had your wage, and it was like 48,500, and you took out your little standard deductions and some other stuff, and you made some charitable contributions. And let's say that your taxable income on your 1040 form. So we were here. No, here. Let's say that when we got to here, our taxable income, let's say we ended up with 34,510. Should write that down. 34,510. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I need to know how much I owe for that much, right? So I'm going to go to these tax tables, so 2020 tax table, and it's broken down by how much you earned. So that was, so see here, 1,000, 2,000. We're going to go down, she's 34,510, so we're going to go down to 34,000. Okay, 34,000. Now notice up at the top, there are different columns. And it says if your taxable income is at least this much, but less than this much. So you're looking at it like a little range of incomes. And then we're looking here. So let's pretend Jane Doe was single. So we would look here. If she's married filing jointly, she owes a different amount. If she's married filing separately, head of household, depending on what you're doing, you owe different things. But we're looking at the first column. So I'm going to zoom in so we can see better. So we said 34,510. So here's 34,500. So it's greater than that. 34,550. It's less than that. So this is the row that we're looking at. And it's the first column. So from this table, she would owe $33,946. So that would be what we put here. So taxable income. So tax, we would go straight here. And we would put 3,946. Ta-da! So based on what she owed, or based on what she earned, this is what she owes. So we would fill that in there. And then if you were using this is different. So you would look at the instructions for all of this. Most of this stuff, you're not going to necessarily use child tax or credit for other dependents. You would put here, yeah. And then other taxes, including self-employment tax. So, and then you come down here to line 25. So line 25 says federal tax withheld. So she owes this much, but on the little tax form that we saw a while ago, they kept out like 6,000 something. So what I would do is I would put 6,000, like 6,945. Then that's what she paid. This is what she owed. This is what she paid. Other forms, Form 1099. These are different things that you would get for different special circumstances. Like for a normal job that you just worked and that was it, you're not going to need any of these other forms. If you took stuff out, like you took out a chunk of your 401k because you wanted to make a down payment on your house, something like that, then you would be sent a form like a 1099 or a 1098. They would send you a separate form for that, and you would have taxes withheld on that as well. So you would put that here. Okay. Earned income credit. Earned income credit is basically for if you don't earn a whole lot and if you have kids. So if we look at our little instruction booklet up here, go back down a little bit. They have a whole table for earned income credit. It's up here. Okay, here we go. EIC, earned income credit. So if she made 34,000 and she doesn't have any kids, she's probably not going to qualify. So 34,000 is right here. If she had kids, she would get an earned income credit for this income, for her how much she owes. But since she's single, so this is the line that we want right here. Since she's single, it's a 0, so she doesn't qualify. So on this, you would just leave it blank. Child tax credit, she doesn't have any kids, she would leave that blank. So these are all explained in the instructions, so you don't have to really worry about it. Then you come down here and it says add these numbers, so 27 through 31, these are your total payments. And add 25, blah, 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 these are your total payments. And then after that, you follow the instructions. If 33 is more than 24, subtract, and that's how much you overpaid. So in other words, in this case, if she got this much and she didn't get any tax credits or anything like that, so that ended up being $69.54. So these are her total payments, so $69.54. But she paid out this much, but she only owed this much. So what they would do then is you would take and you would subtract. You would go this one minus this one, and that's how much she would get back. So she'd get back like $1,008. I mean, $3,008. So that's what she would put here. So whatever you get right here when you subtract, that's your refund. And if you want that whole amount refunded to you, you would put the whole amount. This is information for your bank, so they'll mail you a check if you want it to, but it's a whole lot easier if you just get them to direct deposit it. You get it way, way, way faster. Usually within, they say like 4 to 6 weeks, but I've never had one take longer than like 2 or 3 weeks. Like usually, if you put the routing numbers in there and everything's straightforward, it's usually pretty quick. Now, if she paid less than she owed, so say she owed $6,900 and she paid $3,900, then you subtract those, and that's how much you would still pay the IRS. So if she was supposed to pay $6,900, she only paid $3,900, then she still owes the IRS $3,000. That's not cool. Then tax penalties that you'd have to look at the instruction for. Yes. Okay. Third party. So do you want another person to discuss a return for the IRS with the IRS? Like if you want your mom to be able to call them up and go, hey, blah, 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 I see on her tax return, whatever. That's up to you. You're the employer or you're the employee. You don't have to let anybody look at your stuff. I've never actually put anything on this one. Then you sign it. If you paid somebody to prepare it, so like say you took it to an accountant or something, and if they put it all together and prepared everything for you, then they would fill this out. And after that, you're done. So you would fill it out, and then you would mail it to the address that they have in the instruction booklet. I know this is a very long video, but it's kind of a long subject. But I totally recommend using TurboTax or H&R Block or one of those because it is super easy. You put it on your computer. It just, sometimes you don't even have to download the software. But anyway, they take you through step by step. They ask you everything. You have your little W-2s. They ask you questions on that. Sometimes they already have copies of those. They can look it up by your Social Security. And so sometimes they just go, hey, is this correct? And you just verify everything. They ask you all the questions. They put it together for you, and they file it electronically. You don't even have to do anything. I totally recommend that. It's super helpful. But if you want to do it like on a normal paper form, you totally can.